Not that I have anything really ridiculous to say, but we'll save it for the show.
Save it for the show. We have a guest tonight. That's exciting.
Yeah, I have like a little interview figured out for him, just because I kind of want to get his take on, like, you know, being a fan that's really come into the sport the last couple years. Like, I don't know too many adults, or really many people at all that have jumped into NASCAR fandom the last few years.
Yeah, same.
And he's one of the first, so as long as I've known him, like I knew he always had like a little bit of NASCAR past to him, but you know, the last few years he's gotten into watching races and stuff, like with me on Sundays, and like texting me and shit about it. So
was it Larson saying the N-word that got him into the sport?
No.
Is he gonna say the N-word on the show?
He will not. Although he did say he's been thinking
about it.
No, he got into it because of gambling. It wasn't so much because
there it is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, it was our fault. We made a mistake. Spotter said it was clear. I wasn't clear, and, you know, I didn't want to tear my car up, tear his car up either. I respect everybody, and I demand respect. And, you know, I apologized to the guy when he came over the car, explained to him what happened, and then he took it to another level when he started calling me an idiot and whatever else. And I don't appreciate that. I'm not going to take it. I told him how I felt. I called him out. He didn't show, you know, and so, you know, I'm good with it if he's good with it, but I'm not going to be disrespected by no means.
Yeah, I guess I had a dinner date at Applebee's last night that I didn't find out about till it was too late. It's a shame. I love their riblets and boneless wings, but...
You guys got a little drinky poo on you? You got your Busch Light watermelons all ready to go?
I got my Sprite.
I just got a water, man. I need a few days to...
Sip it on the Sprite, yeah.
I got to detox for a little bit from... Not that I drank extremely heavily, I just drank consistently for like 5 days. So
yeah,
I purge all my body of all Busch Light from now until eternity.
Oh, come on!
Clear.
Like they haven't been sponsoring Kevin Harvick, who you don't like.
Yeah, seriously, grow the fuck up. What has Ross ever done to Chase? What has Ross ever done to Chase?
Nothing to Chase. I just can't stand him as a human being in general.
What are you fucking talking about? He's not.
He is the kind of guy who would like hold the can upside down because he's never drank a beer before, or he's a severe alcoholic and we just don't know about it. Those are my takes.
He's a weird little fucking nerd. He's never done anything incredibly offensive or like mean or like.
Have you been watching the same series we had?
Listen, on the track is one thing. I'm talking about off the track with his personality.
Oh, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, he hadn't choked anybody like Cody Ware, I guess. So
that we know of.
Or like Landon Huffman's dad, the guy who got assaulted by, who was that again?
Some dickhead.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, look, the Crams, the Crams. Who fucking? I don't fucking. Well, there's right, Jake Crum and then there's Dawson Cram. I get them mixed up. I don't know, but.
All right. Well, welcome to Applebee's, folks. We're This is your worn out racing podcast. I am Brien K, as always, with Ashley and Rob, and we got to keep all that yelling about Ross and Busch in at the very beginning because I figured we'd talk about that at some point. I'm all for it. Big Busch fan already been drinking it for years. Now my man's gonna be driving it. They just got to come out with the watermelon flavor next year, and we're good to fucking go.
Now they just got to find someone man enough for Big Busch, real Busch, regular Busch to sponsor. It's all Busch Light. That's right. It brings some of that toxic masculinity into the show.
You mean the Busch heavies, if you will.
Busch heavies, baby.
And yeah, now Ashley's gonna clam right up on that.
I just don't understand, given that one of the biggest sponsorships in the sport is someone that I wouldn't want to drink a beer with. Has anyone ever seen him drink a beer?
Has anyone ever seen him drink anything? I'm pretty sure he gets all of his hydration from a smashed watermelon.
Just sucking the juice out of melons.
Sucking that melon juice right off the ground.
Yeah, and that is a perfect thing to infuse into Busch Light. It's perfect.
Well, they haven't announced that there's going to be a Busch Light watermelon, but that'd be fucking dumb if they didn't do it because that is the ultimate tie-in, and that shit would sell out at racetracks nationwide. They're doing peach. They're going to do watermelon. They did apple before too, which I know you were a fan of.
People just keep wanting it back. I loved it, and I'm also one of those people who wants that shit back. But
I'm sure
regardless, very
watermelon will
happy
be the
for
flavor next year.
Yeah, Busch Light peppermint just in time for Christmas.
Whew.
Well, they did do a Bud Light peppermint seltzer, which actually wasn't that bad, but that is sort of in that wheelhouse.
Yikes! Well,
It tasted like vanilla,
course.
actually.
it sounds like a random word generator on this show right now with all these flavors that are getting dropped out of here. It's written by AI, folks. But yeah, it's NASCAR's funny because it's the only sport where fans will just sit here and talk about corporate sponsorship deals. Like literally, I don't think there's any other room for that in the world.
No.
But it is pretty fucking shocking though. SHR is in a real world of shit now. Though Advent Health,
They're
maybe
about
there's an
to
old
lose that
switcheroo.
bacon money eventually. Too.
Yeah, Almirola, it sounds a lot like he's not going to be around next year.
Well, maybe they'll move over to Barry, because Barry's kind of got that similar like aw shucks personality that Eric does, except he's like a better driver, and I think he's more personable. But maybe that's just me.
I mean, I like Josh Berry a lot for a multitude of reasons, but yeah, that would be good. Also, Advent Health is it's a contract year for them with Trackhouse, so maybe they'll jump ship if Busch is going to come in and take up some of the real estate. But I don't know. I don't think Justin Marks is the kind of guy who's going to turn money down. So definitely huge, though. Busch has been with, or Budweiser has been with Kevin Harvick for, God, how long? Ever since they left Dale, right?
Pretty much since the RCR days.
Yeah, so long time. And it's crazy to see him jump over to what would have been Chip Ganassi racing. Just this Trackhouse has only been around for like fucking 3 years. Go ahead and marinate on that one for a little bit.
Hey, sometimes big teams make big statements right off the bat, and Justin definitely did that.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, yeah, that's beer talk for the show.
Last week was barbecue, wasn't it? And this week it's light beer.
I mean, I'll just say this. So my race excursion weekend was completed, and I drank lots of beers, going to 3 races in 4 days, which sounds a lot better than 4 and 7. So we'll just go with 3 races in 4 days.
Is the fourth one gonna get? That's Utica Rome, right?
Fourth one is Utica, but
and that's next Thursday, correct?
No. It's this coming Friday, but it's probably not happening. The weather ain't looking too hot right now, and I'm gonna be with a BMX buddy of mine that I haven't seen in years, so there's probably a good chance I won't be there. But as far as dirt modifieds go, I will end up driving one in August now, which I'm incredibly excited about.
That is exciting. Well, I was gonna say Ross Chastain is gonna be strapping into a big block at Utica Rome coming up here.
Oh,
I think it's this coming race that you're supposed to go to. So your favorite driver.
No.
I'll pull it up.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Well, fuck. I guess I'll have to look that up, and maybe I'll have to change plans, but we'll see what happens.
Short Track Super Series coming up here. That just got announced today. Mm-hmm. 6,100 to win. That's more like it for Short Track Super Series. And he's running the Richie Evans Remembered event. So there you go, folks.
Interesting. Well,
July 20th. So that is the event you're supposed to go to.
No, it's not. Today's the 12th,
weekend
man.
after. That's right. I'm so fucking lost on time. But yeah, Chastain's running a modify, which is cool.
That is cool. Weird though on the 20th. Like where? Oh, they're in Pocono next weekend, right?
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Well, some racing happened this weekend.
Yeah, you guys were at it.
We went to most of it. The only thing none of us went to was we didn't go to the Xfinity race, which was fine. I mean, after coming home from the truck race, I watched it, and it was I don't really care.
It was a
much
race that happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really care much for John Hunter Nemechek. It was fine. Wasn't the most exciting race. This is
kind of funny how he won it. How Colin completely shat themselves on national television and let John Hunter Nemechek of all people win.
Yeah, they pulled a nice JRM move there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they almost made up for it on Sunday, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was whatever. This is one of those rare instances where the Cup race is better than the Xfinity race on a weekend, so we have a lot more to say about Atlanta, or about the Cup race later on in the show.
We'll
save that.
We do.
Now, Brian, you didn't go to the ARCA race, did you?
No, I didn't go to the ARCA race. I had other stuff going on that day. Just
washing your hair.
You know, I had
to walk your dog, mow the lawn.
Well, yeah, man, I was going to fucking 3 races in 4 days. I had to get all my chores and shit out of the way.
I'm not judging you. I'm just picking an excuse to not watch a fucking ARCA race, which was a shit show.
Yeah.
Oh, well, at least it was remembered as a shit show anyway, with Dean Thompson getting taken out by that. What the fuck was his name?
Hinkarani or some weird shit.
Yeah,
some child.
It pulled him out of a hat. He won a contest, and that's the last contest I'll ever win.
He won himself a nice 1-race suspension.
He sure did. Lots of suspensions coming down from NASCAR today. JB Fortin just got one for causing some shit at Wall Stadium in the modifieds, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, the ARCA race, I didn't watch any of that. I don't think there's anything that I'd rather watch less than ARCA on a road course. It's just...
Yeah, I didn't. I was riding bikes, so no thanks.
Yeah, that's a good time to go do chores or some shit, you know?
Yeah. But Saturday, I did make my way to Mid-Ohio for the truck race, and shout out to my buddy Kyle from Columbus. He somebody I met on Instagram a while ago, and he works for Bass Pro Shops and had some free tickets for the race, and one of them went to me, so that was pretty cool of him. Met him and his lady, and then my buddy Adam and another friend of his were also there, so we hung out all day. I managed to get to the track right as it started raining, so that was cool. Great timing, but
you forgot your Crocs at home.
Yeah, your Crocs and your...
I did forget my Crocs at home. I did, however. I had the poncho from North Wilkesboro that didn't get used was still in my car, so thankfully I did have that with me. But we also had a pretty good spot under a pavilion for all of the rain, so didn't really get too wet or anything, which was a relief. But the race was fine. I mean, they started. It definitely took probably an hour and a half, 2 hours longer than it should have from start to finish, just because they, delayed a little bit due to the rain. Because for a while it was downpouring pretty good, and the track had a lot of standing water on it in certain parts. And they started in the rain, and then eventually it got dry. So it was cool to see that again. It's the second time this year I've seen that live. This time with trucks. The race was okay. I mean, we sat in the one big spot with the S's where pretty much everybody sits. I mean, I've walked around that place numerous times, and there's a couple decent spots to watch, but 3 years in now, and that's pretty much the best place to watch anything. And it was a good time,
Is there a screen around there for you to watch?
Yes.
There is,
That's the other reason why everybody gets. Yeah, everybody sits on that hill. The S's are right there. There's usually a good amount of action, and then the TV screen's right there for the rest of the race. So you pretty much got everything you need right there.
Let me ask you this. I've never been to a road course event for NASCAR, or really at all. I've seen some track day shit and all that, but never a major event. If Mid-Ohio wasn't the closest place for you to go watch NASCAR racing, would you actually go to that facility to watch a race? Is that an experience you would recommend to people? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very nice, easy to get around facility. I wouldn't say, never going to Road America, it's hard to really say it's comparable to Road America, because it's really not, but it's in a very nice lush field. There are a bunch of trees in certain parts of the track. You can really spend a good amount of time just walking around and being in some greenery while watching racing, which is really nice. I kind
of assume that's the way you want to take it in, is by moving around too, because you can't see the entire track. Yeah,
the first year, I definitely did a lot more of that than the last couple. But the first year I just walked around quite a bit and got the whole lay of the land. But since then, I mean, that one spot's,
that's the spot.
Pretty much all you need.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But they let you bring your own beer in there and.
Oh yeah, it's just like everything else. I mean, the only thing. So, I guess we might as well get into this real quick. My good old buddy Spotter Brett made a tweet about Ohio needs a NASCAR race, and I think first off, right off the bat, it's like, well, motherfucker, they do have at least one, and they've had racing in the past. There's another track that was sort of in this area called Mansfield Park that they used to run trucks and maybe even Xfinity, but that track is no longer with us. While it would be great for Mid-Ohio to get a cup race, I feel like the facilities would probably need a few more upgrades before that were to happen. Not so much with like grandstands and things like that, but there aren't really bathrooms there.
It's the woods, right?
It's all just like, it's all just porta potties.
Big old piss
really.
fest out there.
There might be bathrooms somewhere in the pits or whatever, but yeah, for spectators, it's all just porta potties.
Dig a hole.
And,
Bring a shovel.
Sure, why not?
Just like you do in the rest of Ohio, from what I gather. So.
Not last night. You know.
We'll get to the outlaw race. I really want to talk about that, but that's cool. Like I said, I've never been to one of those events. I've always wanted to go, and I've always been. We haven't talked about it on the show since it is the closest track to you.
Yeah.
It is kind of fascinating to me, and I get where Brett was coming from a little bit. Like it's crazy that besides Mansfield, there really hasn't been an oval, or never was an oval that was built in Ohio. And there's a lot of big fucking cities in Ohio that you think maybe back in the heyday they would have tried to build something. I guess Kentucky is kind of close, right? And Indianapolis is right there. And
there's a couple. I mean, Toledo has Toledo Speedway, which Toledo's technically the home of ARCA.
That's right. Toledo is there. Yeah.
And to that track, I mean, I don't know if it had Xfinity or Busch at any point there. Might have had trucks at some point. So it's had some stuff there. A little bit east of there is Sandusky Speedway, which is another asphalt track that's been around for many, many years, and also the home of Thor Sport. They're in Sandusky.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there are tracks in Ohio. I don't know where you would do it though. I mean, Mid Ohio would be cool. I'm gonna say don't fucking put. For many reasons, Eldora is not going to have NASCAR again. Let's just say that.
Not,
I don't know why anybody even suggested that, but no, that ain't fucking happening.
It would be cool.
Happen.
I would like to see it.
Well, even last night at the Outlaws race, like I was talking to some guys in front of me about Eldora, and they were saying like Attica's usually a better race than Eldora, and it's like I was trying to get even from them some more info, like why the fuck does that track, like it's such a cool facility and it seems like it races like shit. And so to hear all that from even sprint car and late model fans, like why the hell would you want to see cup cars, which already don't run that well on dirt, run there? Like I'm good.
I'm just coming purely from the recently seeing the place with my own two eyes for the first time, and how weird of a shape it actually is in person. It'd be cool to see. It's cool to see any race car get around there, and I really wish I would have had a chance to go see the trucks after being in the facility. But I guess the sort of decline in quality of racing, from what I hear, and I don't know if this is just dirt track guys shitting on NASCAR, or if there's actually real truth to it. I'm sure that it's somewhere in the middle, but apparently whatever they did to treat the dirt, to bring in the trucks and bring the facility to the spec to handle all that weight and sort of bring it up to a certain spec for truck racing, has greatly affected the way the track rubbers out and spreads out. So
yeah.
I think maybe I said that on a previous episode. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't know. I would like to see... I'd still like to see Cup go there just for fun. But you're right. There's a billion reasons it won't happen, and most of them are business.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Cup come to anywhere in Ohio. I mean, shit. Cleveland's got some interesting streets you could run on, and...
fucking airport, buddy. Bring back Burke Lakefront if we're going to do that.
Well, there's the airport, but I feel like, I don't know. I personally would be much more into a street race here in Cleveland, because one thing about Cleveland that my buddy Sawyer, who I stayed with in Atlanta this week, and he works in TV production, and one of the things we talked about was how he almost moved to Cleveland years ago, because Cleveland for a little while was becoming a hotbed of TV and film as far as being used to shoot here. One of the reasons why was because Cleveland had no problem shutting down whatever streets you wanted to film shit. There is a pretty wild scene that was shot in downtown Cleveland for one of the Fast and the Furious movies, where cars are like falling out of a building onto the streets below. They allowed that. So like Cleveland is not that busy of a city. Like it's decent sized, and there's some weird roads and turns and shit that would, if you integrated into the race, would be pretty interesting. But I don't think, especially compared to Chicago, like it wouldn't shut down the city if we had to close off, a section of it to have a race. But that's a fucking pipe dream. I think we would probably get a better chance of the airport race happening with Indy again than we do NASCAR coming here. But
yeah,
are they going to have them race by the Christmas Story house?
Oh,
That would be
It's the only landmark I know in Cleveland, Ohio.
It's the only one.
the Christmas Story house is actually not that incredibly far away from like downtown and the airport and stuff. So I don't think you could do it there though. It wouldn't work.
Well, what's the point then?
Seriously, yeah.
That's fair.
They had to park that big old FedEx plane out in the runway at Burke to give everybody something to look at back in the day. You all see the IndyCar footage. So there's nothing out there. Shitting on Cleveland.
Listen, motherfucker, you live in Worcester. Don't even start with me about Worcester.
I got
please.
Thompson, 20 miles south. I got Stafford, 40 miles south. I got tracks everywhere, baby. I can get the fuck out of here whenever I need to. But I guess you do too. And you did get out because you went to Attica last night.
I did go to Attica last night. I finally
First
I
World
was
of
a little
Outlaws
tired.
race.
World of Outlaws, my first ever World of Outlaws race, and I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely a little bit tired and apprehensive. Not so much that I was gonna see some bad racing, but just like, ugh, one more drive, one more race to go to. But long story short, it was a really good time. But I'll get into it now. So.
Yeah.
Attica's a little over an hour from my house, about an hour 15, and it's a pretty boring drive. Like, it's, about 45 minutes or so on the highway, and then just 15 miles through cornfields, and all of a sudden you're in this little town, and there's the track.
That's every dirt track in Ohio right there.
Which, yeah, is also true, because I've been to at least a few different little tracks.
Exactly how Eldora is, too.
Mm-hmm. But, the facility itself, I thought it was just its own racetrack, but it's actually part of the fairgrounds down there. And kind of like the Lorain County asphalt track I just went to, this was one of those weird tracks that didn't really have walls. Like, there's obviously a front stretch wall, retaining wall for, fans and whatnot, but other than that, it's just kind of like slightly banked turns with no backstretch wall or anything.
Jump the cushion, you're just on the other side of the hill, yeah.
Yeah, which happened a handful of times, but there were no real wild wrecks. A couple cars went over, but no crazy flips or anything. But yeah, I went with a suggestion that both Rob and my buddy Bobby and also my buddy Dylan made to go with the pit pass rather than just a ticket, which this is stupid me not thinking about this in any other short track race I've been to. I thought if you bought a pit pass, you still had to buy a regular ticket, which is not at all the case. And the pit pass is only $5 more, so it's like, well, of course I'm going to do that. I had thought that the pits were going to be inside the track like they are at other racetracks, but nope, they were on the outside. So when I first got there, I just kind of walked through the pits, and I didn't really look at the entry list or anything as to who was going to be there. But I noticed Larson was there, and Casey Kane was there, and Alex Bowman's team was there, but he wasn't driving. I forget the guy's name who was driving.
Darren Pittman's filling in for him right now. Legendary driver who's retired like 6 times, it feels like, in the past couple years. So, but yeah, he's filling in for Alex, and he's running at Eldora tonight too, and he'll be there for the
cool.
Kings Royal and all that. So yeah, he's kind of back.
There were some other guys that I did know, like Sheldon Hounschild and Donnie Schatz. Rico wasn't there, which kind of bummed me out because like he's one of the only like dirt guys that I know and kind of follow just based on his personality. So it's kind of bummed to not see him, but what can you do?
A lot of the non-outlaw guys probably saving their shit for the million.
That's fair, but the one point that the guy in front of me made when we were kind of just talking about stuff before the race was that I guess Rico, he tends to be one of those guys that runs historic races, and the Brad Doty Classic does kind of have some history to it, so
yeah,
I guess that's why they were surprised he wasn't there. But again, there's $1 million race coming up this weekend. I get why.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you too, I'm a little surprised he wasn't there, and I feel like if the Million and Kings Royal weren't back to back right after this, he probably would have been. But 3 fucking giant 410 events in a row, and the one that has the least payout, I don't know, if I'm looking to not fuck my shit up, which can happen in an outlaw race very easily, I might consider not showing up too, especially if I'm not part of the points fund or going for outlaw points and all that.
Which that's something that I need to figure out, and we'll have to have a whole talk about that later on down the road.
We'll have the talk.
Yeah, how the whole
Sit in my lap and talk about World of Outlaws versus the rest of 410 racing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just more like how the point structure and all that shit works, because I didn't really understand that at all. But anyways, the race itself. So, well, let me talk about this before we get into the racing. The merch, there were not as many trailers at this race as there were for a NASCAR race, but there were a lot of merch trailers and a lot of individual drivers trailers, which I found a little bit surprising. But I guess knowing, knowing that like there's not an incredible amount of money in these races themselves, but also B, the cost of doing merch and bringing your own trailer is exponentially lower than it is, say, at a cup race. I guess it kind of makes sense that, you just have your little tow behind trailer and haul shit out, and people are buying stuff. I did buy, and you'll have to get the pronunciation of his last name for me, the Shark Racing Team, Logan, what's his name?
Schuhart.
I called him Shoe Shark before.
Logan Schuhart.
Shoehart, yeah. Why are you whispering?
Shoe Shark.
Trying to feed you the answer so the crowd can't hear it.
It's fine. I did buy one of his shirts just because I thought it was really cool and had a lot of neat colors in it.
Shark Racing has cool fucking merch. I'm more of a Jacob Allen guy.
That's what, Alex,
son of Bobby.
Alex, yeah.
Our friend Alex told me to go say hi to him, which I unfortunately didn't do. But
yeah, he's a pretty cool dude.
One other thing I'll say about the merch though is these motherfuckers got to get with it and start putting the cars back on the front, because I think like 80% of the shirts had the stupid. Even the one I bought, the graphic was on the back, but I just liked the color so much that I had to have it. So, but Larson, most of his shirts, all the graphics were on the front, so he knows what's up.
He does.
But yeah, I did get my picture with Casey Kane real quick. I had to do that. That only took 3 seconds.
By request, yeah.
Now, can you spend the next 15 minutes talking about how dreamy he is?
Oh God, he is what a gorgeous man. Like
I'm gonna go get a beer. I'll be right back.
He still looks amazing. I get why all you ladies love him. He's an absolute dreamboat, and looks like he hasn't aged a day. So good for him.
He gets. He somehow gets more attractive with age.
He's a good-looking dude.
It's some guys kind of not age in reverse so much, but we tend to look a little bit better as we get older, because I am one that I look back at pictures of myself when I was in my 20s, and like I definitely think I look better now as I approach 40. And Casey,
I like myself more now, that's for sure. I don't know if I look better, but
well, that helps.
I like me.
That helps too, yeah, for sure.
But yeah, now let's get into the actual racing itself, I suppose.
Yeah. So just before we get started here, I know you've seen wing sprints before, but on pavement, and that was just a few weeks ago.
Yep.
Explain the first time you saw one of these fuckers rip a lap in hot laps, because for me, the first time I saw that, which also wasn't that long ago, I've been watching World of Outlaws and 410s for a while, but there's not a lot of dirt racing like that up here in New England, so when I saw it at Charlotte last year for the first time, seeing one of those fuckers go full bore and to the corner is breathtaking. And how did it make you feel? Did your heart explode? Did you?
I wouldn't say it was that strong of a reaction, but I mean, it was instantly just like, oh wow, this is fucking sick.
Yeah.
Like within the first couple hot laps, it was like, oh okay, I get it now. Not that I didn't get it before, but I mean,
it's something else in person, man. People say that about NASCAR too. Like, you don't really get it until you feel all 36 of them come by and knock your hat off and all that. But it's the same with sprint cars. It's just like, it's visceral and insane.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love dirt modifieds, and that's what I grew up watching, it still doesn't compare to the speed and just nimbleness of sprint cars.
It's insane.
And, it was really, really cool. Like, it was within a few minutes, it's like, yep, I'm into this. I'll be definitely trying to make it to more races this year and years coming, because it was really fucking cool. But in saying that, as I mentioned, Kyle Larson was there, and I was texting you, and I was texting my buddy Dylan, Dylan is go-kart racer, who's written into the show. He almost came out last night, ended up not being able to make it, but he was like, Larson, he's like, I forget who he said to watch. Gravel, I think, was one of them.
Yeah, David Gravel, he's on a tear, but Larson's so good at Attica, it's no surprise that.
Well, so Dylan was like, he's probably not the one to watch. Meanwhile, it's like, motherfucker's already won 2 of these things.
Yeah.
I didn't learn that till after the fact. So
David Gravel is having a pretty absurd year right now, though. He looks very, very good, and honestly, like, if you're playing Dirt Draft, you kind of always got to pick up Gravel right now. He's certainly the championship favorite in my opinion. But not bad advice. But yeah, anytime Larson rocks up to Attica in particular, you kind of got to watch out for him.
Yeah. So he was fast. He ended up, I think, pulling the fastest lap, or he was either first or second in qualifying.
Fastest qualifier, yeah.
Yeah, fastest qualifier. You know, he won his heat. I think he won.
He didn't win the dash.
He didn't win the dash?
James McFadden won, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Which that was another thing that even the guy in front of me tried to explain. I didn't quite understand why that race was happening, but whatever. If you want to try to explain it to me in more detail now, by all means.
It's just
why they have the dash.
It's just another layer of drama. That's all it is. It's how they decide who, because this straight up qualifying. And this is just my opinion. I don't know if this reflects any other dirt racing fans out there, but to me, because the track changes so drastically, they already break it up into 2 flights, right? So that it's whoever gets the fastest lap. It's completely dependent on the condition of the track, oftentimes. So what they do, and again, I don't know if this is the official reason, but I like it for this reason. They have the drivers draw at random out of a hat, and they send them out there and do a quick heat race to settle who's gonna fill out the top 8.
Okay.
And I feel like it probably, there might be another reason for it, but that's always the reason why I enjoy that format, is because qualifying is not something that is, it's not, I mean, I guess all racing is kind of like that. The track condition does change, but it's so drastic in a sprint car on dirt that going purely off times is not exactly the fairest way to determine who leads them off. That's just my opinion.
All right, well, there you go. There's the answer.
Really, it's something else to watch, though, and make them race again, you know?
Well, yeah, that's, there was just, from the time that cars first hit the track until the last lap, it was pretty much nonstop stuff going on the whole time, which was good.
You got a good Outlaw show, too, where there was no support divisions like fucking crate mods or whatever bullshit Kenny Wallace is running that week, you know? It's straight Outlaws.
Not that I... if late models there, that would have been cool. But I mean, I got plenty of a show last night before, Also, real quick, before I get into the actual race itself, let me talk a couple more things about the facilities. So the facility itself, pretty basic as far as food and beer was concerned. Prices were fine and affordable. There was no, no toilet water or anything that interesting to drink, but it was fine. It was a great experience that way.
In case you didn't listen to the Eldora episode, that is a cocktail, folks. That is not something Brien or any of us do on the show. Though I suppose you could.
Stick a straw in the trough.
I love when they put ice in the trough, too. It's like a nice little frozen cup. Anyway, I don't do that.
Good. Well, I believe you, Rob.
You're selling it really hard, Rob, so something makes me think.
Listen to the Eldora episode, please. Google it. But concessions are affordable and pretty unremarkable.
Yeah.
That's where you were going with that.
I ended up sitting pretty much right in front of the start-finish line, surrounded by a bunch of older dudes, and I tweeted this, but there was a much older gentleman right to my left, probably in his 60s or so, and he looks over at me, he notices my hat, and he's like, I see you're in the Irvin hat, He's like, I was there in 94 in Michigan when he got killed. And I was like, just kind of looked at him like, he didn't die. And he's like, yeah, he did. I saw it. I'm like, no, man, he didn't die. Like he fucking won 3 years later. He won 2 years later. I was at the race. He won. He's not dead.
That's what you think.
And I think it took a couple more minutes of me speaking like that, where I still don't think he actually believed me. He's like, well, you seem like your opinion's strong enough that you must not be lying to me. I'm like, all right, dude, You don't have to
pull
believe
it up on the Google form.
He saw what he saw. instead.
Yeah, I don't think he knows how to use Google. He looked like the guy, and I don't know.
He's a word of mouth kind of guy.
He looked like the guy from the Facebook meme with Bush's baked beans, the guy who's thinking about those beans. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but I know that meme incredibly well. He looked like that guy.
I can't wait to be that guy. I think I'm like just a few years off, tucking my shirt into my shorts, that kind of thing.
I could see that, Rob. But
can't wait.
So anyways, the racing itself. Like I said, it was really, really good to watch. I was told to bring goggles. It was kind of dusty, but not so much dusty to where it was bothering like me personally, but it was the way the dust kind of stood over the track itself and the way the track was lit didn't necessarily make it incredibly clear to see what was going on. I mean, not that you couldn't see what was going on, but I mean, only towards the main event, that's when it really started to get kind of dusty.
Yeah, TV definitely makes it look like whiteout conditions at a lot of Ohio tracks, and it really, I don't know. I've been to Charlotte too, which is also a notoriously dusty facility, and fortunately the night I was there, it rained a little bit, so it kind of tamped it down a bit, but it's never as bad as it looks on the highlight reel. But it does get fucking dusty, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Never brought goggles though.
I mean, I swung by Walmart on the way and just grabbed a pair of safety goggles, and that did the trick. But so the race itself, it was a Larson show. There were a handful of cautions, and I feel like I jinxed this myself saying this as I walked in and saw him there. I was like, I told you guys, if I see another fucking Larson win, because I have been to many different races this year. Probably, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 races, whatever. Cup, Xfinity, trucks, now World of Outlaws, short tracks. Aside from the Lorain County race I went to and the Mid-Ohio race, everything I've been to has now been won by either Larson or William Byron. Every single one of them.
The dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of William Byron wins lately. I'm all set on that. But
Yeah,
I mean,
full of this.
I can't deny Larson was great to watch. I mean, he's an amazing driver. Whatever you think about him as a human being or whatever, like, it's inarguable he's one of the best we're going to see in our generation.
That's a fact.
One thing I'll say about the race itself, and I don't know if this is just his skill level or how the way restarts work, it always seemed like he was getting a very big jump at the restarts, and that gap didn't really change a whole lot throughout the green flag runs. I mean, there were a couple times when guys got a few car lengths closer, but at pretty much every point he would jump out to, I don't know, between 6 and 10 car lengths, and pretty much kept that lead until the next caution, and then it would just start right back up again.
Yeah, he didn't get too far out from anybody, and he was always about a mistake and a half away from having the lead taken away, and the battle behind him was absolutely fierce.
I do feel like if there were a couple less cautions, maybe things would have turned out a little bit differently, just because towards the end they were finally getting into lap traffic, and Larson was kind of having to weave through those guys, and that's kind of when the gap between first and second was really at its closest.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was a Larson show. I wasn't even expecting to see him, and there we go. I saw another fucking Larson win, so it was what it was. But overall, just a great experience. I'm very glad I went. I will definitely be going to the Sharon race, whatever the next one is there. Maybe another race or two. We'll see what happens. Unfortunately, I won't be making it to Eldora this weekend, but I will definitely be back 100% at the Outlaws.
Very good. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, because I need an excuse to come out to Ohio again. So we'll hit some shit up.
Yeah. So that was 2 of my 3 races, and before we get into our the third race, which Ashley was also there for, and our friend, my friend Mike from First 7-Inch Club, he's going to be joining us in a few minutes to talk about it, because
that's true, a guest.
Yes, our first ever guest, and he's not necessarily a racing person, but as a fan podcast, which that's what we are, I want to get the perspective of a fan going to their first race. I want to talk about that. And this was Mike's first NASCAR race. So once he's on the show in a few minutes, we'll get into that. But we do got to talk about some DARFs. And
yeah,
I guess, do we want to talk? What else? We had something else to talk about.
Well, real quick, Ashley, I wanted to ask you, have you ever been to an outlaw race or a 410 race?
I haven't been to a 410. I've been to the class below that. So I still need to check off.
Shit? Yeah. I just think
Still
that means we got to hit the finals. We got to go to the World Finals together.
I know. I wanted to go last year, but goddamn, those tickets are pricey.
I'm telling you, the pit pass though, $150 for 3 days for the access you get, and I'm sure we can probably,
not bad.
through some friends, we can probably get some crazy access. I don't want to write any checks that can't cash, but
Right.
even just with a regular pit pass though, you can really experience a lot down there, and it ain't that unaffordable. So let's put that on. Everyone, put that on your calendars right now. Get your little pencils out.
It's November.
First week in November. Yeah, it's like Thursday to Saturday.
Well, it's generally not a week where shit's going on, so I feel like I could probably pull that off.
Yeah. I will be there, and then maybe the rest of y'all will, and hopefully all
Good
the
way
listeners
to finish
will be
out
there.
the season.
Really, for sure. Live from the Thirsty Beaver.
So let's
half
do.
alive.
Let's talk about. I just remembered. Let's talk about the DARF first, and then we'll talk about race lengths, and that'll lead us into Atlanta.
Oh, yeah, the DARF of the week. That's right.
I
So,
had a couple things I wanted to mention too.
Sure.
let it rip.
Oh, right now?
Sure, if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to ask you guys if y'all listened to the new Dale Jr. Becoming Earnhardt podcast.
I haven't listened to it yet. I really want to though. Our buddy Bobby Marcos worked on that
Yeah.
apparently, and the little trailer he put up looks so cool.
It's so fucking. The first episode's only 30 minutes long. It just kind of sets it up. So I think there's going to be like 6 episodes total.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
That said, I'm very, very much looking forward to giving that a listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I listened to yesterday's Dale Jr. podcast, and just hearing him talk about that, it definitely seems like something he put a lot of passion into, and he's already, most of the stuff he does, I mean, his heart's in the right place, and he really cares about the output, so I can't imagine this not being amazing, so I'll obviously be listening to it.
The other thing I wanted to mention is tomorrow, which I guess when this podcast drops, so today, will be the 30th anniversary of Davey Allison's death.
That's
so.
right.
Yes, and our first, it wasn't our first video of the week. I think it's one of the videos of the week that I found this random New England.
Fuck, 30 years. Wow. Sorry, that's crazy.
This random New England pre-race show from that New Hampshire race, and I think it's like one of Davey's last interviews, and it's one of those things that it's just you never really see. If it's not on the playlist, I'll have to add it, but you should definitely check that out, especially since we're coming into New Hampshire this coming weekend.
Yeah, I know we didn't do a video of the week this week, but if anyone wants to watch a really good Davey Allison video, I know both of you have seen it because me and Rob have definitely talked about it before, but it's a short film that Fox put together in 2018 called Davey Lives On.
Oh, yeah.
That one, it's so fucking good. It's about how
Oh, the organ
Davey
donation?
was a organ donor,
Oh, my God,
and it discusses like the family the man who got his heart after he passed away, and like I watched it earlier and I fucking bawled for like 30 minutes every time I watch that video like once a year around this time, and every fucking time it gets me right in the fucking feels.
I would say that's the one thing that Fox is really, really good at is those little short documentaries. Like the Dick Trickle one was incredible.
Yeah, that one,
the
yeah.
Davey one was awesome, and there's a couple more that are just fantastic. So we shit on Fox a lot, but they get that right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The short films never miss.
Yeah, 30 years. Wow. What a So that was the year 92 was the year I really became a serious fan. And Davey was my driver. I had picked him, and of course we lost him not too long after that. And yeah, definitely it's tough to articulate, because I didn't really I understood what was going on at the time, but also racing was one of those things where people just fatalities were common enough. And Alan Kowicki had just passed as well, so it was one of those things where maybe I'm getting my timeline mixed up there, but it wasn't the first death of the year.
Yeah.
And then not too long after that was Senna and all these other guys. So like back in those days, it wasn't uncommon to hear this, but just the circumstances surrounding it, and it was just like, fuck.
Yeah.
A very harsh reality of just how dangerous and how much is put on the line. Even to this day, people tend to forget how incredibly dangerous racing is and how much of a risk it is for those folks to go out there and put on a show for us. So, yeah. I will have one for Davey right now, and wish you all would do the same out there. And Bobby's still alive.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't want to bring the mood of the show down. Just wanted to bring that up because he was my first favorite driver, and if it wasn't for him, I don't think.
And then Clifford died not too long before that too. So losing both of your sons
the year before.
Within a year is And then Bobby's still alive. I can't imagine the weight that he's had to carry around. So, yeah. Jesus. Well, let me just to bring the mood even further down or back up. That makes me feel really old, but also this is way off topic. I learned that Ron DeSantis is only 44 years old today.
That is crazy that you mentioned that, because my buddy mentioned that too.
44, 1978, motherfuckers. He is effectively, in quotes, our age. I have friends that I drink with that are that age. And that man is not going to be president, but he's fucking 44. Blew my fucking mind.
Yeah, that's alarming, because I'm only barely 4 years older or younger than him, so.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. So,
anyways.
Yeah,
so
life is precious, folks. Speaking of the sanctity of life, I guess we can get into our dart for the week right now.
Oh, so real quick, Rob, did you get the text I sent you?
No, I did not. Let's see.
Check it. Mike didn't get the link. Wrong. Well, that's really all the text said. But
yeah, we're about to invite our guest on the show here, and I suppose we can, once while I'm adding him, we can talk about the dart for the week, or maybe he can discuss it too, because this one is more of a human interest kind of story here. Let me just punch his email address in real quick.
Well,
by the way, folks, if you're starting your own podcast, I recommend using Clean Feed. It's what we use. There's almost zero latency. The audio quality is all right, and it's really easy to have guests. So if you're thinking of starting your own podcast, this is not an ad, by the way. This is just me as I'm using the fucking thing. I recommend using Clean Feed, so cleanfeed.net. But we have enough fucking podcasts in the world. Don't start one. And speaking of our next guest, he has his own podcast, which is pretty good too. First 7-Inch Club. So we're going to get Mike on the horn here. You'll probably pop in a second. But while we wait for him to show up, we do have a dart of the week, as you guys know, and I've said for like the past month. I am going to Loudon to get rained on this weekend. Mm-hmm. We're camping out, be there all weekend. Hopefully we get some racing in. Saturday looks pretty good. But anyway, people are already up there. I would say the campgrounds are already like a third full, and it's the middle of the week. It's sold out this year, which is fucking nuts. So anyone who says NASCAR is dead is wrong. But our dart for the week here comes from a guy named Derek B. I found this in the New Hampshire Motor Speedway Camping and Tailgating Facebook group, which I am a member of because I want to see what the fuck's going on, where the party's at, where the shitters are, that sort of thing. And he posts on there, just a question. Is there anyone camping there that would be able to babysit or watch a dog? Just wondering. Which is so fucking stupid. And of course the comments just lay into him. Don't bring your dog to the racetrack. Board your dog like a normal person. But just the fact that somebody would even ask, like, hey, I know you guys are spending all this money to spend a week and a half in a fucking dirt lot in the middle of New Hampshire, but does any of you just want to watch my dog for me while I go get shit-faced?
Well, here's my thought on that. One, I believe I've already talked about how much that upsets me as a dog person, but second off, if you're going to camp at the track, like, if you have an animal and you have a place like a camper to keep them in where that's air conditioned and quiet, that's okay. But clearly this person, if they have that, they just want to be able to go get fucked up and not have to worry about their pet, which on one hand, I at least I can kind of tiny bit appreciate that, but how about you just don't fucking bring the animal with you and find somebody to do that off track? So that
hey man, you want to watch my kids for me while I go get shit faced? See, that sounds fucked up, doesn't it?
That dog's gonna end up at the stripper tent tied to the stripper pole.
Probably.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I think we got Mike on, don't we? Is Mike here? He's muted himself. He's a
Yes, hello. Oh, wait, this is way too high. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. There we go.
Now we got a real podcaster on the show because I
Hello.
can tell because he's got compression going.
Yep.
Oh,
Nice and
Mike,
hot.
Mike is a very experienced podcaster. So let
I'm
me
a-
do a quick intro
I'm a
here.
vet.
Yes. Mike and I have been friends for a very long time. Mike's done a bunch of different podcasts throughout the years, and he currently does one called First 7-Inch Club, which we've mentioned before. If you're a punk hardcore metal fan, it's a really cool, interesting show where they talk about a lot of obscure records, but also some not so obscure ones. Mike and I, we've gone to a ton of different shows, most of them being wrestling over the years. But this is Mike's first NASCAR race, and Mike's got kind of an interesting history with racing. Growing up, his stepdad raced local short tracks, but even then, never ended up going to any races. But Mike, as a now grown-ass man, only in the last few years you kind of started to actually watch racing on a regular basis. So how did that happen? Like, give in your words, like what got you into racing?
Oh, it was completely gambling. That was just what got me involved. When gambling became legal in Illinois, I just bet on every single sport to see which was the funnest. And racing's up there. Racing's pretty fun to bet on because it's it's like horse racing, but a little more humane. So. And I like Brien said, I watched when I was a kid, and I was like pretty angsty, so I never like went with my stepdad or anything. I went to monster trucks because that's way cooler, but I just never went to any
crossover metal of the racing world.
Yeah. And I never went to racing, and then like when I became an adult, I like vaguely kept up with it a little, but once it switched to like Nextel, I was pretty much out of it.
Well, I mean, even me, that's kind of when I was starting to tune out too. I mean, my childhood, from like what Rob said, 92, 93 up until early 2000s, racing was one of the biggest things in my life. But then, as the teens kind of set in, I was getting into BMX, I was getting into music and traveling and stuff. And, racing just kind of fell away. First after Ernie Irvin retired, he was my driver, and then after Dale died, not to be one of those people that's like, oh, once Dale died, that was it for me. It was a combination of many, many things, but I always still kind of paid attention. I watched some stuff. I just didn't go to races for like 8 years, then coming for a full circle, ended up moving to Florida to work in the bike industry, and I'm a half hour from Daytona. I can't not go to races, and here we are 13 years later, and I'm doing a racing podcast and just went to 3 races in 4 days. So.
America's #1 ranked racing podcast, by the way. Not a real statistic, but we're going to say it. We also have Applebee's in the name of the show, so it'll get shut down at some point. So we can lie all we want.
But Mike, this trip, this was your first NASCAR race, and living in Chicago, you decided to go to Atlanta instead. Obviously, you and I talked about this. The main reason why was money. I mean, the ticket prices were insane, and we both knew ahead of time we weren't gonna be able to see shit. And you as an actual Chicago resident understand that a few miles in the city, it's like a whole different fucking state. You didn't live that close to it anyways. So there are many different reasons why, and also we had friends in Georgia, and it made more financial sense just to make that trip and also hang out with old friends, and rather than go to Chicago, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was basically the same amount of money to go to Atlanta than it was Chicago. And even if I did spend it, I had no interest in the concerts, which was tacked on, and I would have been upset that they got canceled too, because it's like part of the price. So, and I'm smart enough to know watching a street race or a road race or whatever is going to be pretty terrible, not worth the money.
Yeah, I mean, after kind of seeing how it worked out, like, I was impressed. I still don't know if I'd necessarily want to go next year. Maybe if tickets were cheaper. I mean, it's a good excuse to go and hang out. It means other shit to do in Chicago, so it's not like I'd be bored. But, plus the fact that, we missed all the rain and stuff. Not that we didn't deal with a little bit of rain in Atlanta, but not to the level that we would have in Chicago. So it all ended up working out for the best. But before we get into the actual race itself, I thought I was coming into this weekend, you know, I knew your experience with racing, but I thought everyone else we were going with had completely no clue as to what they were in for, but that actually wasn't the case. You know, our friend Dave, who is another Albany resident, or former Albany resident, I didn't know that he'd actually watched racing for years, and he grew up going to Lebanon Valley too. So it was cool that he kind of knew what was up. And then also Wes, who is this dude from Boston that our friend Daniel kind of brought into the group. He'd actually been to a bunch of races at New Hampshire and actually saw Adam Petty's fatal wreck. So they weren't all, you guys weren't all novices. Sawyer, funny enough, did call me the NASCAR Sherpa for the trip, which I found vaguely amusing. But he did, yeah, both he and Daniel, you know, everybody kind of was asking me what the hell was going on all the time. So I was fine. Happy to answer any questions you guys had. But before Sawyer lived 40 minutes or so from the track, and before we made our way there on Sunday, you know, I've mentioned Mike and I are wrestling fans, and we made a quick little pit stop to a wrestling landmark in Lafayette, Georgia. Now, we're not going to talk about what that landmark is. Just Google it.
The Crispin Wall House.
Yeah. Fayetteville.
Oh, come on, Jesus Christ!
Look, we talked about Davey Allison dying for like 10 minutes.
Rob,
We talking about Adam Petty and shit.
I was trying to be funny. Anyways, but yes, we went and saw the Chris Benoit house because we're both ghouls and had to go see that. Mike, you also hell, before we even get into the race, we should talk about your Saturday. You did go to Babyland, which is a Georgia landmark, but you also talked about it on your show. So if you guys want to hear about that story, listen to First 7-Inch Club this week. However, you went to another landmark, the pool room. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I saw that place. I guess it was last year's Atlanta race. They were live from there. Yeah, they were doing footage there. I was like, that place looks cool as hell. I'll never go there. And then I think because Dave lives down there. Dave, like you said, Dave's been watching racing for a couple of years, and he was originally why I was like, oh, I'll just go down and go with Dave, because Dave was going to go to the March Atlanta race, and he said it was too cold. Which I don't know. Dave's from Albany. That's kind of suspect to think 50-degree weather is too cold, but whatever. But but I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go in the summer then if Dave's down, and I thought it would just be me and him. But anyways, and then according to Sawyer, every place I said, like, he was like, oh yeah, that's pretty close, and every place was like an hour and a half away. But I'm glad he was like, oh, we could go there anyways. So we went there, and it was pretty cool. It was definitely, as a city boy for almost my entire life, it was a little slow living.
Let me ask you a question. How disappointed were you to find out that they don't have beer at the pool room?
Well, yeah, Brien tipped me off, I think, before I even got to Atlanta, that they weren't a bar and it was just a diner, and I was like, I don't know, that sounds like they still have beer. And even Sawyer was like, there's no way they wouldn't have beer, and I was like, I don't know, I don't see it on the menu, but but I mean, it was fine. I was like, I didn't want to say to everybody else that they might not have beer, because then maybe we didn't go, but it was kind of a shock that there was no beer there.
True Love, have you ever gone in there and tried to like petition them? Because I know you go there somewhat regularly.
Yeah, I mean, they've never sold alcohol there. Like back in the 80s or whatever, you could bring in your own alcohol in like a cup.
Yeah.
But
Dumas Walker style.
Different times. Yeah.
But
I don't know. Maybe once the owner passes away, he's a little bit older. Maybe the younger kids his grandkids might bring in the alcohol. I don't know.
And they'll put the menu on a chalkboard and charge $18 a beer.
There was they seem to be, I guess they were getting a little more customers than they would normally because the race was in town, and it wasn't really a lot. Like when we were there was like a few other tables, but that seemed to be enough to like throw them in a tizzy. And at one point
in the weeds.
Like some woman that was sitting at another table tried to order like a burger or something, and she said the waitress told her she'd have to wait because their griddle was full already. And I've never heard anybody at a restaurant say the grill was too full. And also they had like a decent selection of shirts and to promote the restaurant or whatever. They're $30, kind of expensive for that type of place, especially in the middle of nowhere. and there was a guy in an Eric Jones Guns N' Roses T-shirt that was in front of me when he's going to pay, and he had like a bunch of T-shirts, and the woman that was working that had an Inked Mama T-shirt on. She, for whatever reason, he didn't say anything, but she wanted to note that they're always that expensive, and they weren't that expensive just because of the race. And it's like he didn't ask for that information, but she just supplied it, which was weird. But
and I don't know if all these people, right?
Yeah, I do. So I love hearing like an outsider's perspective.
Are the T-shirts really $30 all the time, or what?
Yeah, I think they're just, because people come in, they'll buy them. So
yeah, okay.
Did you make it over to the museum across the street?
Oh, I didn't even know there was a museum. I would definitely would have.
It's literally like less than half a mile down the street. It's the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah, I think I was really pushing it with the Benoit House and the Babyland and everything. So I don't know if anybody would have put up with that shit. Yeah, one too many landmarks in a weekend for my friends. So. But yeah, the food was fine. It was very cheap. It was incredibly cheap, and it was fine.
Bully Burger?
Yeah, it was decent.
Yeah.
There was a woman that was near us and that was really upset that they put coleslaw on it when she just assumed it was going to be on the. She assumed it was going to be on the side, which is a weird thing to assume.
Slaw burger.
Yeah, it's a slaw burger.
It is Dumas Walker.
If you say I want the bully burger, I've had friends do this. If you say you want the bully burger and then you say, but I don't want slaw on it, the waitress gets very upset and she'll go, well, then it's not a bully burger.
Is that the only thing that makes it a bully burger?
I think pretty much.
Yeah, because everything else is like ketchup, mustard, and pickle, I think, and it's just like that's just a normal burger.
That's kind of on the consumer, honestly.
They have normal.
No, there's normal burgers.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's people are dumb. Well, that's not, it's whatever. I guess it's not surprising. So that was your Saturday, and Sunday we already talked about going to the track. The drive itself was okay. The parking was fine. We parked fairly close in a free lot, which was a little bit surprising to me. I thought we'd be parking way farther away, but walking into the track, Mike, what was your first thoughts? Like just seeing everything and whatnot.
It was very hot. That was one thing. I did like how it was just kind of like a carnival of merchandise. That's a pretty sweet idea. I wish other sports did that. I guess like Soldier Field has the trucks outside, but it's not like to that level. So the whole pre-race is very accommodating for sports. I've been to, just for a background for me, I've been to like every single sport imaginable at this point, except like tennis, I think. So it's extremely accommodating. Even like when you go in there and they're just like handing out cool towels and waters and shit, that's awesome. So I thought all that stuff was pretty cool. Obviously the kind of like crazy fascist t-shirts I wasn't too into, but I kind of expected that. But yeah, it's like a cool deal. I wish, like you said, we parked way too far away from the more seedy sellers that go to races, so I didn't get to see that part. But just the whole like carnival kind of aspect of it was pretty cool.
What's crazy to realize is in the 90s it was like 10 times bigger and crazier.
Wow.
Like in the 90s, so when we went this past weekend, I mean, NASCAR now, the merch trailers are basically almost team trailers. But in the 90s, every single driver had their own fucking trailer. So there would be...
It was a lot more like an Outlaw show. Yeah, and it wasn't like one conglomerate making all the T-shirts that are for sale. It's all Fanatics. Like makes for everybody.
Like say for New Hampshire, literally from turn 4 to turn 1, you would go in and the entire front stretch behind the bleachers, just trailers. That's all it fucking was. And not to mention the fact that you could trade in your Copenhagen for some Skull or your Newports for a carton of Winston's. They would hand that shit right out. Like if you wanted free tobacco, you would stock up with a few months worth just going to a race back then.
Yeah.
Nowadays you just, like Mike said, stickers and fascist t-shirts and things like that. So we should also, though, before we get into the racing, let's talk about the concessions, because I know that was a big part of this trip. and let's talk about the issues we had with the concessions.
Yeah, I got questions about this, but yeah, please.
Okay. So I do this for every arena I go to, is look up the concessions, because I'm very interested in stuff like that. And if you go to the Atlanta Motor Speedway and you search concessions, it brings you to this map, and it shows you all the concessions, and it's like all cool sounding things. Like everything on it sounds really awesome and amazing. And even there's like Papa John's all over the place, which actually wasn't there. And none of that stuff was true. None of it.
I was gonna say, it's an SMI track. I know exactly where this is going.
Yeah. None of it was true. The only thing that was true was our friend Daniel walked, like, we were in the champion section, and he walked all the way down to the Earnhardt section, which was like 38 miles away as far as I'm concerned. And he told Sawyer that Sawyer's a vegan. He told Sawyer there was a vegan cheesesteak down there, and I was like, he's fucking with you. There's no way. And Sawyer was like, you're fucking lying.
Wait,
Fuck you.
that's true?
Yeah.
This is
We
the true one.
like several hours later, we like when we were home, he was like, I swear to God it's true, blah blah blah. And I looked it up. I looked up Atlanta Motor Speedway vegan cheesesteak, and it brought me to a secret concessions menu that was all true. It was the actual list of things that were there. So I don't know what they have on their website and why they don't have this other one that I found on some other website. But
So there's no Australian meat pies or fucking
No.
wontons.
So
and,
gangster egg rolls.
Yeah.
yes, that's what I'm getting to. So
Yeah.
So we wanted the gangsta egg rolls. We have those. They're not called gangsta egg rolls, but we have those in Chicago too. Like the same kind of deal of putting
We
like
have
basically
them here in Cleveland.
yeah, you put like a whole meal's worth of food inside of an egg roll. But Daniel really wanted them. I just wanted them for the laughs, and we're looking all over the place. And Brien was like, "Why don't you just ask somebody?" I was like, "Because they're not going to know. It's not like these people live here; they just work here." And unfortunately, I was carrying around one of those cooling towels, and this woman was like, "Hey, do you want some ice for your towel?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so I was filling it up, and Brien says, "Hey, do you know where the egg rolls are?" But the only problem is, she was the only Asian person in the whole entire building. So it didn't come off too good.
So listen, hey, listen.
How many T-shirts did you buy, Brien?
to my credit, we'd been ingesting some drinks.
We've been
and some other
drinking.
stuff before the race, and this woman, I immediately realized my mistake, and I was incredibly apologetic, and she took it in stride, and she laughed it off, and I, all was well. She was totally nice about it.
Here's my question for you: did she know where it was?
No.
She had no idea what the fuck we were talking about. No.
Okay.
And after
That's
the fact,
even worse.
After the fact, I think either you or Daniel or somebody looked it up. The Gouda boys, who were the ones who were making these gangsta egg rolls, we'd found their Instagram, which hadn't been updated since 2019. So, this roster of foods that was on the Atlanta site,
Pre-COVID.
I think we gathered it was from sort
maybe.
of festival that happened there.
Yeah.
It wasn't even racing related, because all the foods and shit just didn't make sense. There had to have been a thing where there were more people than there would be at a normal race.
Or maybe it was pre-COVID. I swear to God, it says like updated for 2023 or 2022 season or something on it though. But yeah, because it also lists like a Papa John's in every single area of the raceway, and you would assume that means they have some kind of sponsorship, and there was zero Papa John's, so I don't know what the deal was.
Yeah, you don't really tend to find any at all of the SMI-owned tracks. It's all kind of the same box standard orange cheese on top of something variety of food.
I mean, the stuff. I mean, we all got something to eat, and it was fine. Again, compared to other sports, and while I definitely have been to as many other sports as Mike has, I mean, that's the one thing about NASCAR in general. I mean, again, not only can you bring your own food and drink in general, the concessions are overall a lot cheaper than most other sports.
Absolutely.
Or other
But
entertainment.
you shamed me because I was talking about making sandwich first, and you said I sound like your mom, and that seemed like that would have been the way to go. I wish I really made sandwiches. I would have been sick.
That's a fact.
I had never been to Atlanta, so I didn't necessarily know what to expect either with concessions. I just know when I go to Darlington, Darlington stuff is way more affordable than Atlanta. It's way closer. So yeah, I just eat shit there. I bring beer and stuff in, but I mean, just eat whatever they have at the track. Plus also, that track tends to they always have their own special throwback items. So you always got to get those, and even just the regular basic food at Darlington is pretty affordable. But whatever, that's enough food chat. Now, we did meet up with Ashley and hung out for a little bit before the race in the cooling tents. And
how was your day leading up to all this, True Love? Where were you up until that point?
Just having a heat stroke in the parking lot. I did get to see Uncle Kenny live in the flesh. That was cool.
Oh, the Trackside Live?
Yeah, he was on
cool.
stage with Richard Childress and Larry McReynolds. So
that's
it
cool.
was a fun little chat. That was before you guys got there, though.
Yep, you were with the whole family and buddy, and I met your mom and everything. That was nice.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And while I thought our seats were a lot closer to each other, in reality they were not. We were way underneath the suites and stuff, and were you guys actually out in the sun or no?
We were like a few rows down below where the covering starts. So
Okay, so before we get into the race and whatnot, I want to say a couple things about the track from my perspective. Never going there before and knowing how much history Atlanta has, I think when I was actually there in the flesh, it was a bit surreal, and also just how little the track looks like it did in the 80s and 90s. Like, it's completely unrecognizable. Like, they've
well, it's a D now. It didn't used to be.
Well, I mean, aside from that, but I mean, even just knowing that the old start-finish line was what is now on the backstretch, and like just thinking back to like, you know, the 92 500 and all the races, and just like how all that stuff happened on that stretch of the track, and it looks absolutely nothing like
it might as well be a completely different facility.
Yeah, which, in saying that, I mean, Darlington is sort of similar in the sense that, you know, they switched the start-finish lines, and, you know, previously the old start-finish line had those that front stretch had that big massive tower, and it just looked so much visually different. That said, the track still races the same, and, you know, I think overall that track isn't too much different than it was in the 90s, whereas Atlanta, just absolutely completely
it's not even the same as it was 2 years ago. So
yeah, so that was, you know, for as cool as it was to be there, I think that was a little bit of a stark reality for me to see in person. But it is what it is. I mean, I knew what we were getting into there. And then, yeah, as far as the race itself, so, I mean, Mike, just talk about it. I mean, what was it like seeing that stuff live, the sounds, the sights, and just having that all right in front of you as opposed to watching from your phone and watching from TV?
I think like the big difference is that when you watch other sports on television, it all looks gigantic, and then you go there and it's still big, but it's like manageable, and you see it and you're just like, I could pay attention to everything. And I kind of figured that's what it would be like at an actual track, but it's not. It's gigantic still, and it's like you can't really pay attention to everything that's going on at once. You have to kind of focus on a couple things. And so it's one of the few sports that's like that, I think. But
did you have a scanner or like a radio or anything like that?
No, I was hoping my phone would be strong enough, have a strong enough signal to get the scanner, but it wouldn't work. So I couldn't.
It works. Sucks. It works at Darlington, and it even kind of worked at Wilkesboro. I was surprised it didn't really work at Atlanta. I figured they would have their internet and shit sorted out. But they did.
I think we're just too high up, and I think because we're under the suites, because like when I would go down to get food or go to the bathroom or something, the internet was back on and I could hear the scanner, but it was just, I think we might have just been too high up or something.
A pro tip for all the listeners out there, it's always, if you can, the scanner rental's nice, but if you just buy a cheap old like Uniden police scanner off eBay for like $40, that'll do the trick. Or even an FM radio, because all those are broadcast over FM and you get the broadcast. But we've talked about this on the show before. But
that I didn't know.
Yeah, my bandmates will do that because they're not nut jobs like I am and obsess over this stuff like I do. So they're fine with an FM radio and all that. But yeah, you can. We've talked about it on the show before, but if you have a scanner, you can tune into the TV or MRN or radio broadcast or whatever, commercial free, and it's pretty cool. So
yeah.
But yeah, like it was definitely large, but at the same time I don't feel like I catch a lot as much as I want to on TV either, so it wasn't like a letdown or anything. It was just kind of a different feeling, I guess. Yeah. And
it's kind of nice to have the choice on what you focus on, right? That's how I feel anyway. Like you're kind of forced to watch one thing on television where there's so much going on the racetrack, and sometimes watching a guy struggle in 30th place is more entertaining than the actual race.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, one of the things I did enjoy about it was I like mundane parts of sports, and it was cool that, because like Harrison Burton got a flat like very early on, and it was cool just seeing him just struggle the whole entire time, because you would never see that on television. They would never show Harrison Burton like being so far out of the draft and just just going by like so far away from everybody else. So that was pretty cool.
And one thing I was very happy with, I mean, we don't have to necessarily get into the particulars of like on-track action, but you guys, for your first race, got to see a really, really excellent race.
That was pretty good.
Not even pretty much everybody in media that I've listened to or read the last few days. I mean, everyone was raving over that race. Obviously fans were not super happy with the outcome at the end, which we'll talk about in a second, but from bringing you guys there and just how good the actual on-track racing was, and there was so much passing and so much action, and there were wrecks, and it was just really good. And I've been to plenty of bad, boring races. Like I was at the Jeff Burton race where he led every single fucking lap. The fact that you guys had the exact opposite of that, that's the kind of stuff that, from my perspective, as a lifelong fan who is kind of helping introduce other fans into this, like, this is how you guys get hooked into this shit, is going to a race and having it be a really good race. So, I was very, very happy that you guys got to witness that.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. Obviously, the end kind of sucked, but not really. It really only really sucked because like I didn't win any money, and it was like I'm pretty sure I would have won money if they continued the race, because all my guys were right there, but they fucking stopped the race.
I don't think anybody was really happy with how that panned out, but I mean, you and I, we were watching the weather for weeks prior to this, and I expect there to be at least a little bit of rain somewhere. I'm glad it happened the way it did, as opposed to us having to sit through hours of rain delays and lightning delays and all the other bullshit.
That's a rite passage in its own right, I suppose.
And honestly, I think it was a benefit for the people there that didn't watch NASCAR regularly, because I watched it. Yeah, because, the final 10 laps would have just been wrecks, and we would have been there till like midnight, and they would have been pissed off. And instead, they want to go back in March. So I think it was a blessing that there was a rain out at the end. Yeah,
and I don't know what the fans got on TV from what was going on at the actual track weather-wise, but I mean, I was getting texts like where we were sitting, which I'll say this real quick, I didn't love sitting underneath the suites. It felt weird. Like it's the first race I've been to where I had a covering over top of me. Like I'm just used to like the sound being different and all that, and it was just a little strange being underneath the suites. But we also couldn't really get a great sense of what was going on weather-wise. And I was getting texts, there's rain in turn 4, there's this, that, and from where we were sitting, we couldn't really tell much of that at all until like it was incredibly apparent that it was actually fucking raining. That said, I mean, at the track, once they actually called it, the weather picked up pretty fast. And while it didn't turn out to be a massive downpour like I think we were all fearing, like we were able to make it to the car with only barely getting rained on. Like it was more windy than it was rainy, really. But there was lightning. I mean, there was lightning happening for probably the last 20 laps of actual racing, and I figured they would have called a lightning hold at some point there, but I don't know if maybe the lightning was actually farther in the distance than it would have been to cause that delay, or they just wanted to, well, let's fuck that and let's just try to get as much green flag racing in as we can. But definitely expected to get completely dumped on. While that didn't happen, I was completely fine with them calling it, because if they had tried to get it restarted, it would have been at least an hour to 2 hours before they got that in. And yeah, like Mike was saying, all of our friends would have definitely been over that. Hell, I would have been over that at that point. Like I was telling them, it's like they're gonna call this, and we can stick around if you guys want, but I'm totally fine with leaving because like I know how this is gonna pan out. So, so yeah, I mean, so I guess to sum it all up, I mean, yeah, William Byron won. People weren't happy. It is what it is. I mean, they all knew the rain was coming, and they were racing their asses off. I mean, they really were racing their asses off the whole race. And one thing that came out of this weekend was people saying between this weekend and Chicago, well, shorter races need to start happening, and I think that's total bullshit. I think I don't want to see Atlanta go to 300 miles. I think they were racing hard long before the threat of rain was real, and it would have continued till the very end had the rain not come. So for anybody to say that race would have been better had it just been 300 laps, like, you're an idiot, and I don't know, you must not like racing enough if you don't want to see a race like that go to its full length.
Yeah, let's just play like 2 periods of hockey. How's that sound? So we can fit the TV window. Go fuck yourself.
But I mean, Ashley, so do you have any notes from your experience? This is just us dudes up in the rafters.
Did you find the egg rolls?
No, I made sandwiches actually and brought my own sandwiches. So.
See?
All right, well, fuck me then.
No, I mean, I've been to Atlanta a bunch over the years, so I was just curious to hear your first time takes.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I know we already talked about possibly doing this again in March, and Dave, who we mentioned before, he's actually considering going to Darlington in September, which I told him I'd be down for as well. Not that I have a plan, totally concrete yet, but there's a good chance I go down there. And,
yeah,
and
I'm actually I've got that on my potential radar as well. So
yep, and all 4 of you are welcome to come crash at my parents' place about an hour away if you want to. So keep that in mind. But,
in your favorite town of Myrtle Beach?
No, they're in Loris. They're not in Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle, baby. Yeah.
So even shittier town than Myrtle Beach, but
and Darlington's close to Charlotte too, which it's always cool to go check out race shops and museums and the Hall of Fame and all that bullshit. Mm-hmm. It's close enough to get that experience. So yeah,
for sure.
I recommend that.
But yeah, so Mike, this was it. So this isn't going to be your last race, is it?
No, I did want to talk about some people watching though, because that's my.
Oh
my
yes,
I was
going to
say we should.
If y'all were sitting next to any.
No.
We were sitting next to some old family, and there was one kid that much like our buddy at North Wilkesboro, this teenager could not have given 2 fucks about being there. Like, he was in and out of his seat and just like looking at his phone the whole time and like not wearing any racing gear. And
that's one of my favorite, like, and I've never really thought about this until we're discussing it now, but the bored, petulant child at a racetrack is one of the funniest like social situations you can witness, like with the hoodie like pulled completely over their head, the iPad out, just like the most awkward like triangle shaped positions they can like bend themselves into to not be in that moment at that time, and just trying their hardest to disassociate, but it's so fucking loud, and it always brings me great joy.
The kid next to us was definitely old enough to have been able to be left alone at home, so I have no idea the fuck he was there. He must have just agreed to go to be something to do. But that was at least next to us, that was it. But Mike, I know you've got notes, so let's hear them.
It wasn't it's mostly all positive stuff. It's usually I really focus in on the freaks and weirdos, the places I go to, but it wasn't too bad. I'll say that the crowd was way more diverse than I would have ever imagined. Not so much male to female, definitely a lot more males than females, but as color-wise and age-wise, there was a lot more diversity than I expected. I think it's pretty cool that it's a sport, and I'm sure NASCAR doesn't think it's cool, but I think it's pretty cool that it's a sport that there's a lot of grandpas and grandmas there, and that's not like a thing you see at many other sports. You see it at baseball a little, but it kind of depends on team, day.
I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool, and like Brien said, the kid next to us that was definitely not his parents. They were definitely his grandparents, and they the dad had like one single can of Coors Light, and he had the grandpa had one single can of Coors Light. He had a pack of chocolate chip cookies and a sandwich, and I was like, this guy fucking rules.
He's been doing it for like 40 years at least.
Yeah. And that's why I knew the race wasn't gonna start again, because as soon as they went under rain, all the grandpas got up and left. They were just like, this is it, this is over. That was cool. I saw a couple dudes. I go to a lot of wrestling, so I kind of am used to people cosplaying as wrestlers and stuff like that. But I saw a couple dudes, which I didn't know existed, that wear sublimated fire suits, and I didn't know that was a thing. And that's way worse than cosplaying as a wrestler.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, yeah. That's some
Mike,
basement level shit.
While we
Quite
did,
literally.
while we did see those, there was one guy you pointed out who was actually wearing a real Kenny Wallace Square D uniform, which those actually those pop up
Kenny?
way more.
He was actually on stage with Uncle Kenny before you guys got there too. They brought him up on stage.
Okay.
I was about to say, I'm assuming he'd done that to have that moment, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But at Darlington for the throwback weekend, that's fairly common. I mean, everybody's wearing some old shit, but in there you see a lot of crew uniforms. But at every other race, it's not a thing.
Are the sublimated fire suits, are those official NASCAR license, or are those somebody bootlegging those?
Bootleg, all bootleg. My buddy Isaac, who I've talked about many times, Isaac on Twitter, he constantly digs these up, finds them online. He actually buys them too sometimes, and he'll point out this was different than the photo, and this is all fucked up. So, but yeah, none of those are legit. They're all bootleg.
That's amazing. But yeah, it was a cool crowd for sports. I was very, because NASCAR has a lot, racing in general has a lot of stereotypes, so you expect it to just be all chuds, and it was. And I mean, you said every track is different, so I understand. I watched the entire Dirt series, and the Dirt series makes me feel a little uncomfortable crowd wise, so I get it.
Yes, I would.
I get it that every track is different, but I was very pleasantly surprised by the crowd at this.
Yeah, that's the thing. Every race even growing up, I always saw people of all ages and colors and stuff at races. And Daytona in particular is one that you get. Daytona is like the WrestleMania of NASCAR in the sense that you get tons of people who are traveling from way far out of the way, and that crowd, out of all the ones I've been to, is absolutely the most diverse. And yeah, I've also been to some with more women than what we saw this past weekend. But yeah, I mean, it's compared to a lot of sports and a lot of big events, it's way more diverse than stereotypes would lead you to believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I mean, that was Atlanta. Great weekend. Thank you so much, Mike, for organizing all this, because it was a really good time. I mean, aside from the race itself, it was just, hell, I talked to you literally every day, and I don't think I've seen you since before COVID, and other people I haven't seen in probably, some of them, 10 years at least in my life. So it was just a really awesome time getting to hang out with everybody. I wish I got to experience Saturday with you. I did have my own plans that day anyways, but I'm glad we hung out as much as we did.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, man, there's no better place to spend a Saturday night or a Sunday afternoon or night than the racetrack, in my opinion. It's a nice place to go drink some beers even if you don't care. And hopefully we get to hang out and do that same thing in Darlington if that all works out. That'd be fucking tight.
Hell yeah. So yeah, I think that pretty much wraps up this week's trip to Applebee's. Mike, you get to lead off the plugs this week since you're the guest.
Hey, if you like what you heard here from me, I do not ever talk about sports on my other podcasts because I'm not allowed to, but I do a podcast called First 7-Inch Club, and it's about records. And if you're into hardcore or punk or something, and you want to hear two dudes just skewer an old record that you've probably never heard of, it's a pretty fun time. We're pretty funny guys, if I do say so myself, and we do talk about food and stuff every once in a while. I love food. I can't stop talking about it. But if you want to check that out, it's First 7-Inch Club. I'm also on Twitter at VRTL Pros, which is an old wrestling podcast I don't do anymore, but I keep the Twitter, and that's about it. For 7-Inch Club on Instagram too. If you like punk and hardcore but you hate listening to podcasts, I post old scans, old flyer scans, and old zine ads and stuff like that, so you could check that out too.
By the way, I just want to say real quick, I didn't know there was a groundwork from Connecticut. I know the Arizona one, but the Connecticut one was a complete shock to me. So you learn new things every day if you follow him on Instagram. So yeah, I recommend the podcast and the account as well.
Yeah, I'm going to to hear your account of Babyland General because I grew up going there, so I can't wait to hear.
So fucking weird, man.
It was a fun time for sure. Definitely a fun time.
It's perfectly normal to me.
I did watch the birthing video, and yeah, that was...
birthing video. Oh, man.
Yep. So yeah, as always, you can follow us at Meet Me at Applebee's on Instagram and Meet Me at DeBees on Twitter. I'm not signing up for Threads because I'm not.
You let that blow over?
Yeah, I hate doing social media as it is. I don't need another fucking thing to do. So whatever, leave that to other people. I'm Speedway Screens on everything and speedwaytsj.etsy.com.
I'm still Snake Mountain _True Love.
That was a little more enthusiastic than the past couple weeks. But
I'm trying over here.
Yeah, Rob Moats _unofficial everywhere. I am not on Threads either. The only Threads I know is that terrifying BBC movie about nuclear winter, which if you want to fuck yourself up, go ahead and YouTube that shit. But band's called These Wild Plains. You just type that into the internet, you can find us. We'll all be hanging out in the X slot all weekend at Loudon. It's going to rain like crazy, but we're going to have a lot of beers. And I think we're going to the Black Flag podcast party. I'm going to swing over there and try and buy a hat and see what happens on the stripper poles. It tends to be how it goes out here. Loudon is Yankee Talladega, I'll say that. So we're going to have a blast up there. And we're all the way in the back of the X slot. If you want to come have a beer with us, I forget what row we're in, but if you just keep walking, we're out by the tree line, and we'd love to hang out with you. So, yep, hopefully to see some of you guys out there at Loudon this weekend.
Yes, sir. All right, folks, thanks for joining us again at Applebee's, and we'll talk to y'all next week.